the years, whatever the game, the Red Army's passion is always the same. Decades pass, now we rise anew. Rovers fans, this pod is for you. We won the cup, we ruled the league. A grand final win made us all believe. The world took note with wristbands fall. The Robin's superb, now we won it all. Red Army, let's hear you sing with all your might. For your world champions in the red and white. We are OKR and we are the champions of the world. Yes, we are the champions of the world. This is the Robin Pod.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Robin Pod, which is of course brought to you by Budget Tyres Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of the world famous Hull Kingston Rovers. Join us for this week's episode of the Robin Pod is Robin Pod regular Bazza Kingston. Welcome to the Robin Pod, Bazza. Before I introduce you, apologies to some people who have maybe been expecting this week's episode to be out a little bit earlier. Hopefully it's not coming across, but at the moment I'm bunged up full of cold or hay fever or whatever it is. Hence why it's out a little bit later, because I've been dosed up on every bit of medication you can get. But that said, welcome Bazza, welcome to the Robin Pod. There's lots to get through. Of course, Steve Till joins us for Robin's Revisited. We answer all your questions in question time. We look forward to Saturday's game against Warrington. But Bazza, there's a lot to get through in terms of that performance against Wakefield.
Yeah, pleasure to be back on, Johno. Thanks for having us on. But yeah, it's there is a lot to dissect and so much what went on in that game. You could really feel the frustration coming through the stands last weekend, mate. So yeah. Well,
I'll tell you what, Bazza, let's look at the lineup for that game, because it was a stronger side than we'd seen previously. We saw a couple of players returning, Joe Burgess, Sam Luckley. We saw Arthur Morg named in the squad for the first time in a long time. I think Will Peter said after the game that Arthur Morg didn't feel ready, he didn't feel like he could go into that game, which is a fair call. You know, it's better to do that than going half-cooked, isn't it? But I was quite confident going into this Wakefield game. I was looking forward to it. It was a bright, sunny afternoon in East Hull. Wakefield, we know we've had some good encounters with them over the past few seasons, and I thought this was a great opportunity for the Robins to really kick on for the rest of the season, to really lay down a mark against a very good Wakefield side, and it never really materialised.
No, you're right. So did I, mate. I we was unbeaten at home, and even though we've been clunky, we've still been getting the job done. And I personally felt a little confident going into this against Wakefield, because you got to give Wakefield a little bit of credit, because they was missing a few bodies too. More noticeably in the span, and I thought this was a good opportunity for us to put a marker down and really kickstart our season and some of the boys to step up. Unfortunately, John, it didn't happen, and I can't remember the last time we went for a full 80 minutes at Craven Park without scoring a try, which to me is bitterly, bitterly disappointing. There was a lot of mitigating factors in that game, and I don't want to get on the bandwagon of the ref, but I certainly don't think Chris Kendall helped that night, because I felt it was too much of a stop-start game. I dare say a lot of the decisions he made was correct, but there was just certain decisions what left us scratching our head in that game, and I just felt it was part of a mitigating factor where we just couldn't get into our groove, into our rhythm, because it was that much stop-start. And with respect, if you're gonna give a penalty away like 3 or 4 times whilst you're in possession, it's criminal. Kendall set the marker out early doors of how the game's going to be officiated, and we just didn't adapt to it, and we just kept giving away them silly penalties. and Peterico needlessly getting sin-binned, we just made a tough task almost impossible, I felt, that day. I
mean, that opening 10
minutes,
Bazza, was replicated in the subsequent second 40 minutes, wasn't it? It wasn't a great 10 minutes. It wasn't a great opening to the game. 8 minutes, Wakefield score, but it was the penalties for dissent. And like you said, Chris Kendall laid down a marker in terms of how he was going to officiate it. But we just seemed sloppy, ill-disciplined, not at the level that we've become accustomed to. And maybe that's our fault, because we said very early on when we were recording the Robin Pod this season that it's not going to be the same as last season. It is going to be different. That said, I think some players need to take more responsibility, and we'll come on to them players a little bit later on, Bazza. But collectively and even individually, we're making daft errors, doing things that we don't need to do, to try and almost, I think at times, Bazza, force things to happen. Whereas last season, we trusted the process. We went through the gears in the game. Whereas now we seem to, as soon as something goes against us or we get an opportunity, we want to rush, we want to get it happening, we want to make something happening. If we don't like what the referee's done, we want to let him know. We're waving our arms around. There's a whole load of stuff going on, which is detracting from actually what we need to be doing to lay down that marker to set ourselves going forward in the game.
Yeah, it is, Johno, and that's the frustrating part. And looking at how the players are conducting themselves at times, like you've just alluded to, forcing things and not going through the process, it's left me asking the question, are these players under pressure? Are these players feeling like they've really got to do something or really got to make a difference? And at times, it's really, really needless with what some of these players do. I thought we did well to hang in that game going into half-time at 6-all, mate, because I felt like Wakefield was getting on top, and it was very chalk and cheese with how Wakefield played that full 80. There was patient, and they just kept grinding us out, and waiting for the opportunities. And we weren't patient enough in that game, I don't believe, and that showed come the 80-minute mark, because it was panic rugby at times, and we're playing like a desperate team, and we don't need to. We're still in that top 6. We just need to put a decent performance together. And this isn't just in the Wakefield game. This has been over a number of weeks. And like you say, there's a lot of different factors into it. And personally, I'm open to be shot down, but I don't think our bench is helping. We're short at Magic, carrying Noah Booth on the bench unused, playing Bill Leyland for only 5 minutes, and our squad's knackered. And when you're only rotating virtually 2 players, it's putting bigger minutes in the legs of the boys who was out there. So this week I thought was a little bit better on the bench, but again, we was carrying Jack Broadbent. I thought it'd have been an opportunity coming up against Wakefield, especially with their size of their pack, with Caleb Hamlin, Ueli and Kais Fayatilli coming off the bench. Felt like we needed a little bit more size on the bench. And even if that did mean giving opportunity to Kobe Wayne, I was just to rotate things in the middle a little bit, potentially that could have helped a little bit more size in the pack. But overall, mate, it's disappointing. And I think some of our players need to do a little bit of soul searching, because, again, this is just my opinion of how I see things. And it genuinely feels like how it's perceived is there's certain individuals out there, which I will not name because that's not my style, but you feel like they've come here when it looked like the career was over with. They've done the unthinkable and had one last hurrah and got a load of silverware. And it feels like, with the body language, like they've put the cue in the rack, that there isn't that hunger there no more. And that at the moment is what's frustrating with Rovers. I don't feel like we're seeing that hunger, that desire, whether that is on the players or whether it's how they're being coached, I'm not sure. And they say you don't become a bad team over the night, but I think right now we're having a damn good go at it.
No, and it's really hard because you don't want to dissect it too much, Bazza, because we've still got a hell of a lot of the season to go, and we're still, regardless of some of the results that we've encountered this season, we are still handily placed to to be in the playoff semi-finals, hopefully the grand final come the back end of the season. So you almost want to hold that inquisition then to see really, what has happened this season. But we are going through a bit of a shaky time at the moment where the performances, what we talked about on the Robin pod last week with James Perlin and Steph Makey was absolutely brilliant, by the way. She's going to be on future Robin pods, great contribution, absolutely fantastic. But we spoke about how at the moment it's just getting over the line. It's getting them victories. It's getting them 2 points with a view to hopefully come the back end with a fully fit squad or as close to a fully fit squad. You can make a real good attempt at a grand final appearance and hopefully a grand final victory. But that said, we haven't got over the line against Wakefield. We weren't great against that lot, but we got the win. You have to go back quite a bit to see our best performances of the season. And I think this is where at half time, Bazza, I accepted the fact we haven't been great, but we was 6-all. We was in a great position then to get the boys back in the sheds, reset, lay down what's the game plan is for the next 40 minutes, go execute it. Well, I tell you what, there's one team who did do that, and it wasn't the Robins, because Wakefield came out absolutely fantastic, back-to-back tries, and they did everything that we didn't. And I don't know what's happened at that half-time. I don't know what's in the players' minds, but something's not either registered or happened for that to happen.
No, and what you've just said there, again, Wakefield come out, there was patient and they executed really, really well and put us to the sword. But that half time, we should have gone in them sheds thinking, we've done well to stick in this game, because let's be honest, Wakefield was the better side in that first 40. So for us to go in all level, that's where we should have gone out and been patient, wore Wakefield down and then took our opportunities. When we come out, it was panic rugby, like we had scoreboard pressure, we was chasing the points when we didn't need to. Now, is that poor game management by setting individuals on the field? Is it a message what's being delivered by the coaching staff? We don't know. But that second half was absolutely shocking. And what's frightening right now, Johno, is the missed tackle count. We're near the bottom of the league with that, with the most missed tackles, and it's not good enough. It really, really, if we are going to be genuinely competing to get that Super League trophy to come back home, we need to be better. Now, I'm not writing us off, because if we do get our bodies back, come back at the end of the year, and we find that form what got us over the line against Brisbane, putting a performance like we did against Warrington in that semi-final, we'll challenge anyone and we'll give anyone a game. But it's finding that confidence, finding that belief and getting them bodies back, hopefully, before it's too late. And we need to get into our rhythm, because I felt in 2026, I genuinely don't feel like we've been consistent enough. So in the last quarter of the season, we've got a real opportunity now to put some wrongs right. And it's all literally, it's all on the boys' shoulder now to put a few wrongs right and get a few people back on side, because right now they're opening themselves up for a lot of criticism, and we can down out on 2025 all we want, but that was then. For me, I've parked that up right now. I'm just going off what we're seeing, and we know what's frustrating is we know these players are so much better than what they're serving up right now. These are legends within our club, and at the moment I just feel like some of them are just an absolute shadow of the former selves, what they give us last year, and we know they are capable of it. It's whether they deliver it now going forward.
Yeah, and I tell you what, we'll dissect some of them things in terms of what we need to do to get back to that form we saw last season. Maybe we won't get back to it, but there's definitely an improvement to make. There's no doubt, though. Like, once again, Wakefield have done us with them back-to-back quick fire tries. For Tilly, he has an absolute field day against the Robins. I mean, let's get it right, that defence for both of them tries, though. There's no way, especially the second try, he should not be going through where he did. Not only getting through, but the space and the distance he travelled to get that second try, that should have been stopped. And that's the kind of things where supporters are looking at it and going, what is happening in the middles? Where is the defence? You've had Batchelor during the game making 50 odd tackles, but like you alluded to, there's so many missed tackles, and that try there typifies some of the efforts we've seen during the season, and that's where probably Willie Peters is saying it's not good enough. That is not good enough. They should be not getting that try there. Don't get me wrong, I do think Fertilli, I think he's an absolutely fantastic player. He seems to get the mark over us. He seems to have the number on us, his drives, his power. But they're the tries we can't be conceding.
No, and you go back to last year, mate. I think we had the best defence in the league, and it was our heroic scramble defence what got us over the line in some tight games last year. And what's happened between then and now, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Is it losing Sean Kenny-Dowell, Danny Ward? Is it new players? What's been brought in by Ian Watson and Luke Gale? I don't know, but we was excellent at our scramble defence. You'd feel comfortable with any team attacking our line, knowing that our boys will keep them out. But now at the minute, it's like Swiss cheese. You can pick any hole to go through, and they're getting through virtually untouched. And it's not good enough. It's really, really not good enough. And we can say that we're missing Tom Amon, and the one who we are missing, and we've sung his praises massively, is Dean Adley, and we're really starting to see that right now, how much we are missing Dean Adley in the middle, because their tackles that Dino had put himself in front of to try and prevent it, and we're just seeing certain personnel not fully committed to put the body on the line. Now, I'm hoping it will change, and I think one guy who does deserve a bit of a shout-out was Jordan Desiree, because I felt like he run his blood to water against Wakefield, and he gave all he could. It's just a pity that a few of them didn't follow his lead on the night. They've got a lot of work to do. They have, let's face it, we've got a task ahead of us right now. But this is where Willie Peters earns his money, and it's how much them players respect Willie Peters, respect the club, respect the board, and respect the fans, and really have a good look at themselves to up the game and improve. We need a better performance. We're going into Wire next week, which we'll come on to, and Wire was absolutely shite at the weekend, but I personally won't put it past them to put 30 on us if we carry on playing like we do. That's why we need to up our game quick, smart, because we've got enough personnel in there to compete with the best. And for whatever reason, we're just not playing to our potential right now. So hopefully things will turn around. But for me right now, I'm done with trying to make excuses for Rovers. Right now, it's just not good enough. And if we do want to be competing, if we do want to stay in that sixth, we do have to get better. We do have to sort our discipline out, and we do have to sort these missed tackles out, because it's absolutely killing us. It really is killing us.
Yeah, and anybody who was listening to Radio Umberside after the game, as I was on the way home after it, and they heard Chris Charles, obviously former Rovers captain, saying that there's been a lot of talk. There's a lot of people saying what we're going to do, but where's the actions? And I think he was alluding to the point. Players who were talking a lot, but why is it not being backed up? And that's probably the biggest frustration, is that what people say they're going to do right now, or what they want to do, or what the team need to do, or putting in a Hulk AR performance. Well, they're not. Let's be frank, they're not at the moment, are they? And Willie Peters, he talks about the scoreline doesn't reflect the level of performance, which I understand. You could win a game and not be great. You can lose a game and be brilliant, as daft as that sounds. Yeah. But we had it twofold on Saturday. We had the result and we had the performance. And anyone who also listened to the Willie Peters interview post-game will have been left in no doubt whatsoever. He was absolutely furious. It's probably the most, upset, probably the most despondent, no energy. Just almost lost. Willie Peters sounded lost as into why they lost that game, which for me was a worrying part, because it wasn't we need to improve on this or we need to that. It was just a complete loss. And for me, that says to me, Bazza, what they did in the captain's run and what they planned all week, obviously might not have worked, but certainly what was said in the second half at half time definitely didn't work. And neither players didn't step up to do what was asked of them, or they're not listening to what Willie Peters was asking them to do. And don't get me wrong, there's a mitigating circumstance here. Wakefield were there to win the game, and they, they got the 2 points. But I don't think Wakefield was sparkling either. I just think we presented them with the opportunities to score them tries, and ultimately, but we never looked like we was going to get back in it. And even in the second half, Bazza, we started chucking balls, or Pettico on the touchline chucking a ball. All these errors and mistakes, trying to force something, trying to make something happen. And I can understand why Willie Peters was upset. But it did worry me to hear him talking like he did.
Well, it didn't worry me, mate, because I think it's what's needed right now. This is a guy who's spent 3 years of his life building something special here at Eastall. And Willie Peters always alludes to the Hull KR way, putting in a Hull KR performance. And that's been his philosophy since he's been at the club. And that was far from a Hull KR performance. That was far from a performance to be proud of. So I'm glad that he's pissed off. I'm glad that he's raging, because I think it's done now. The excuses, they've run out. It's time for change. And I don't think Willie Peters is afraid to make these changes. It's just frustrating on his behalf, because he's worked so hard to put us on this pedestal. And I think what he said in his post-match interview was that going into that round was about connections. I'm sure it was that game. I've never seen our squad so disconnected in 80 minutes of rugby. So I totally understand his frustration. I understand, because he knows deep down there is the capabilities of them boys are so much higher than what they're showing right now. So I understand why at the minute Willie's frustrated, and not only that, the fans are frustrated. So I dare say there's going to be a lot of soul searching this week, and I think first and foremost at Warrington, one thing he's going to be after is a performance, because if we put a performance in to be proud of, like Willie always says, the result will take care of itself. And I think that's what we need to go back to, instead of chasing points, chasing games, making stupid passes. Like, it's wrong to single out one player, but what Pettico did, just launching it out on the full. We're missing that cohesion. We need to stop doing daft things like that and start believing in one another. And I think when that comes, we will come good. I just hope it comes sooner rather than later, before we leave ourselves too much to do.
Yeah, you talked about connections, Bazza. The biggest connections often are centre and wingers. Joe Burgess, to me, did not look at the races one bit. He didn't look like he should be on the pitch, really. For whatever reason, whether it was injury, fitness, whether it was, I don't know what's going on, but he did not look at the races, and you saw that in terms of his performance.
Yeah, it didn't look like he wanted to be there. I think after 20 minutes, I pointed to my partner and I said to her, there's 20 minutes gone. Budgie stood there with his hands on his hips, struggling to run back. It looked absolutely gassed. And I don't know what's going on with Budgie. That cohesion with him and Gilly, it just feels like it's non-existent right now. Maybe he's not fully recovered. We don't know the ins and outs of it, but for me, at this stage of the season, we don't want to be taking chances on players who are half fit or are not up to speed. So if it means sitting Budgie back down for his injury or a bit of self-reflection, then personally, I think that's what's going to need to be done. I think we're going to have to be ruthless now and make some tough calls. And that's not me singling out Budgie. There's numerous people who I believe right now don't deserve a starting share within that squad, because they just don't look right unless they can turn things around. But with what you said about Budgie, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, mate, because it looked done. It looked absolutely done. And I don't know why. I wish I knew whether he's playing cautiously because of this back injury. And if that is the case, then he shouldn't be out there, because we need our boys out there who's going to give 110% and put the bodies on the line.
Yeah, make sure you stay tuned right to the end, because we've got lots of questions during question time around squad rotation and stuff like that. I mean, right, we'll talk about the referee. Before we talk about Chris Kendall and what he did during the game, dissent is just crazy, in it, really, because my biggest frustration is when match officials give penalties for dissent is consistency sometimes, and sometimes how they allow certain players to get away with certain things and how they then pull up other. But you can't deny the fact Mikey Lewis shouting across the field, then turning the ball over, and then the captain to be giving a penalty away for dissent. That is not acceptable. That is not acceptable at any level. That's not acceptable at under 10 rugby league, amateur men's rugby league, elite rugby league. That is not acceptable. And that's where I think maybe, do you know what I say about they're trying to force things, they're trying to make things happen? They're pushing the luck as well. And that is not what we need. It's almost batten down the hatches. Just get on with it. Once the referees give it, you might not like it. I know the captain gets a bit more license, doesn't he, to maybe put his point across on behalf of his team. But obviously, at that moment in time, he's crossed the line. Willie Peters said he's never seen 3 penalties given away in a game for dissent. Well, it don't mean it's not right to give them. That said, for some people listening to this Robin pod, and lots of people commenting on social media, and lots of people watching the game, whether it be on TV or live at Sulgrup Craven Park, many people would have been very happy with the match officials' performance on Saturday night.
No, the one. And I think what my frustration was, I don't know if it was 2 or 3 minutes. It happened right in front of me where I was stood in the well. Peterico got tackled, and there was a bit of needle in that tackle, bit of grubbing us, getting held down. And Petter was trying to shrug him off. And Petter stood up, appealed to the match official about what had happened in the ruck, and got pinged for it. Now, I understand Petter's frustration there, but we see week in, week out, no matter what team it is, they'll try and appeal if they don't feel something's right in that ruck. But I felt like Kendall was ready to do that, and I don't know. I think that's where, from very early on, that's where the frustrations come from, when Petter was trying to appeal for something what happened in the ruck. He got pinged for it. Right, that's strike one. You know, for me, it was harshly done too. But we need to learn from that. We need to be better than that. And Chris Kendall just made it the Chris Kendall show. Stop, start, stop, start. I've got absolutely zero complaints with Petter getting 10 minutes, because that late hit was no need. There was no need for it, you know. But again, it goes back to frustration. It goes back to how it's officiated. And I'll be honest with you, mate, we've had Kendall 3 times in the last 4 weeks, and it's been a horror show for me. It's not been a free-flowing game, and it's not a great look for the game. And I'm not just bagging on my team. If anybody watched the Lee and Castleford game, it was very much the same in that game, with Liam Rush in the middle, just throwing out penalties and leaving people scratching their head for absolutely no reason. And right now, while we're trying to make our sport, our product really attractive, especially for investment, we need a quality on-field game. And we're not getting that while the referees are trying to make themselves the star of the show. And I think, personally, Chris needs to go away and have a good look at himself and how he officiated, because right now there's only one official who I think is worthy of any grand final game. I'd love to have her in our game, and that's Tara Jones, because I think she's the most consistent. She's the most clear with her decisions. And personally, mate, I just don't think Chris Kendall's up to it. And I think I called on him 2 weeks ago, and it is awful, but we give him a reason to ping us, which ultimately is down to us. We need to be better. We don't need to give Chris Kendall any sort of reason to pull us up for anything, whether it's dissent or what. So we need to be better in that aspect, and we need to control our emotions better. But for me, overall, Chris Kendall was absolutely shocking. It was dire. The tension in the stadium was unbelievable. But again, it's not something I've seen before. Getting pinged every 5 minutes for a dissent call for a player appealing to a referee. So maybe that's what they're clamping down on now, and the players didn't get the memo.
No. And that is sometimes a frustration, isn't it? Where certain points of the season, the referees seem to then pick out certain things on the field more than they do, or more than they did previously. And you do wonder sometimes, is there a directive? Is there been something that's been spoke about that they need to clamp down on? Now, that's fine if it's made public and it's made aware. Now, I know the match officials, of course, for the RFL are in touch with clubs and stuff about, what they're doing. But, if there's an issue and they want to clamp down on it, make it public and say, over the last 6 weeks, we have noticed X, Y, Z, or an increase in these infringements. That is why over the next few weeks, we are going to be almost over-refereeing these things to make a point of what they're doing. Now, we don't know. I mean, like we said, it's very often, the problem is you don't know what's said on the pitch. We don't know how some referees let players get away, or how certain referees allow players to say what they want. We've got, obviously, others who are really, want to pinpoint. I wouldn't say Kendall's the strictest referee. I can't recall, when a game where he's really then started pinging people for dissent. Maybe it was just this game. I don't know. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, because there's no doubt we're going to have him again this season at some point. Let's be honest. But what frustrates me is going from Marcus Griffiths at Magic, going to Chris Kendall against Wakefield. Then we could have, is it Liam Moore on, I think, against Wakefield?
Is that all we've got?
I think Liam Moore. I might be wrong. I might have just caught this up, so forgive me if I am wrong. But the point I'm making is, whether it's Liam Moore or whether it is Jack Smith, whoever, is now you're getting separate refereeing styles, which seems to be impacting the game. And this is why I'd get rid of the 6 again, because every single referee sees the 6 again through their eyes. And not even through their eyes, during the course of the game, it changes as well. And I think the referees need to almost, all of that opportunity to interpret a decision needs to be taken away as much as possible, and they need to referee to the rules, and that is all they do. They don't need to interpret whether someone's holding on, or they just need a definite a definition of what they should be officiating on. And I think there's the 6 again, for example, is where there's too much opinion on it. There's too much. There's ones where they let it go, and then there's ones where they let it pull it up, and you go, well, hang on, that's exactly the same as what the one previous one. And that's where I think there's a bit of freedom that maybe needs to be taken away from the match officials.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can never quite understand how it's down to them how they perceive it, when that's not always the case. And all we want, and we've said it for years, is a level of consistency across the board with regards to the match officials. All we want is a free-flowing game of rugby. That is it. And some match officials are keen on giving out more 6 agains. Chris Kendall this week, the dissent thing. We just want everybody to be on the same page and executing the same rules at the same time, because it's too inconsistent, mate, and it's so frustrating right now. I thought at Magic it was really, really good how you could hear the match officials through the tannoy, and their reasoning behind decisions. Maybe that'll help. Maybe that'll help with the fan experience, so we get a better understanding of why a decision's been given. But I don't know, mate. I think right now the officiating is a lot less to be desired with certain personnel in the officials. So we need some changes, mate. We do need some changes. And this isn't me because we got beat by Wakefield. Wakefield was the better side. I hold my hands up. I think
regardless of any decision Kendall made, Wakefield was still winning that game.
Yeah, they were still winning that game, but I feel like we just need a bit of clarity, because another one what's left me scratching my head is week in, week out, we always see a player from whatever club pinged for late hit on a passer. Tell me I'm wrong. And they always get sanctioned with 1 point or whatever, and it's no further action. Peterico has been sanctioned for late hit on passer. It was already on 1 point, but they threw 5 points at him and banned him. Now, I just want a bit of clarity about that. I just want a bit of understanding why they come to the decision to give Petter 5 points when you see week in, week out, a player gets pinged and it's 1 point for a late hit on a passer. So I just want to know the reasoning behind that. And I feel like that'd help with the fans as well, to feel more connected, is to make it published, the match review panel, why a decision has been made. And it's just making the game really, really frustrating at the moment.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, Bazza, and that's why there were so many fans commenting, weren't they, after the game on Saturday. Really, really quickly, before we bring Steve Till in for Robins Revisited, of course, we've still got question time to come, and that big game against Warrington on Saturday. What's not helping the Robins at the moment is... I dare say Michael Lewis and Tyrone May are on top of the game at the moment, which is really frustrating when Tyrone May, for me, went through probably, I don't know, the best few weeks of his time as a Robin, showed some of the best rugby league I've seen him play. And Michael Lewis, on the back of it being a World Cup year, is certainly not playing himself into that England side. And that attack at the moment is just, I'm not saying it's non-existent, but it's certainly not fluent. It doesn't look fluent to me. And our last kick options and our kicking options look very, very way off right now. And again, I don't think that's why we lost, but it certainly didn't help or contribute to us winning the game.
Well, your halfbacks are always going to struggle out there when they're playing behind a beaten pack, and I think that is the core of it. It doesn't matter what halfback pairing you've got, and I'm not making excuses for Tyrone and Mikey, but when they're playing behind a beaten pack, they're always going to struggle to make things work and to be creative, and that's really hampering us right now. The loss of Tom Amon and Dean Hadley, and even Tavita, because we saw good signs from Tavita. When you're playing behind a beaten pack, you're always going to struggle, and I think that's getting highlighted right now. And I'm not going to say they're getting found out, but they're struggling to be creative. And there was a couple of plays in the first half of that Wakefield game, and it was just repeat, and it was the same result every time on the last play, coming out to Ollie Gildart in the 20 and running it in and turning the ball over there. And there was no real attacking sense. There was no, slotting a kick through to try and get a repeat set. It just felt like it was the same process and the same outcome every time. And Wakefield could deal with that all day. And yeah, they just weren't doing that different. And it was just really, really frustrating.
Yeah. Let's leave it on frustrating, because we got Steve Till for Robins Revisited.
Hi, Chris, and this week we're going back 10 years to July 2016. It was the 8th of July, Friday, and it was a thriller of a match between Rovers and Huddersfield Giants. Rovers were coached by James Webster at the time. He'd taken over from Mr. Sandercock, and Huddersfield were coached by Andy Kelly, who I think is still with that club. Anyway, so as I say, it was a thrill of a match. Rovers team included Dane Tills. We mentioned him last week, or you mentioned him last week as being at the Magic weekend, Chris. Well, Dane Tills was propping for Rovers with Sean Monk, former Huddersfield hooker, and Mitch Allgood completing the front row. Chris Clarkson, Kevin Leroyer, who was in fact skipper of the Robins this night, and George Lola completed the pack. The backs were Ben Cockayne, Kenny Seo, Thomas Minns, Ian Thornley and Dave Thompson. And our half-back Rovers had Matty Marsh and Albert Kelly. Full-back for the Giants was none other than Jake Connor, with the three-quarters McGilvery, Cudjoe, Wood and Darren Murphy. Ryan Briley, ex-Robin, and Jamie Ellis, another ex-Robin, with a half-back partnership with Sam Rapira, Carl Wood, Okul Natai, Tom Simmons, Michael Lawrence and Ryan Hinchcliffe providing the powerhouse in the forwards. Danny Brough was on the bench for Huddersfield, as was Oliver Roberts, Nathan Mason and the big man himself, Al Crabtree. Rovers' bench was John Bud Debser, Kieran Dixon, Robbie Mulhern and Adam Walker. And as I say, it was a thriller, but it didn't look to be going Rovers' way in the first half. The Giants built an 18-6 lead by half-time, with tries from Ryan Brealey, Jake Connor and Jamie Ellis, all converted by Jamie Ellis. So Rovers had a try from Matty Marsh, converted by Ben Cockayne. So Rovers were behind 16-6 when the hooter was blown for Oranges for the first half. Second half, straight away, Huddersfield came down and Danny Brough dropped a goal. So we're 19-6 behind. A minute after half time. But 3 minutes after that, Albert Kelly crossed over for Rovers, try converted by Benny Cockayne. So Rovers had decreased Huddersfield's lead. And Huddersfield went to score again with George Lola crashing over and Matty Marsh going over for the Robins in the second half, with Ben Cockayne converting. So Rovers were 1 point behind until the 72nd minute when they were ordered a penalty. Ben Cockayne duly converted, and the 6,434 crowd were ecstatic at Rovers gaining a victory, which at half-time looked very much unlikely. So the result in the end was Hull Kingston Rovers 20, Huddersfield Giants 19.
Massive thanks to Steve for that. Bazza, also, it was great to see the squad of 2006 back at Craven Park on Saturday night. They got a warm welcome. It was great to see so many familiar faces.
Yeah, it was. And I apologise to any Robins if I've come across quite negative on this podcast, mate. It's just how I'm feeling right now. But yeah, that was a massive positive, and I won't lie to you, when Benny Fisher gave his speech, speaking about the Rovers fans, salt of the earth and that, I won't lie, mate, I was still on the sideline. I was getting a little bit choked up and reliving that cold October night in Warrington when we beat Widnes, and you know that really ignited OKR and really started to put us on the map. And again, there was forever legends, and it was great to see so many of them back. Byron Ford, Ian Morrison, it was exceptional to see them back, and you know, they brought so much joy, especially to my generation of supporting the Robins.
Yeah, 100%. Look, let's move on to Warrington on Saturday afternoon. God, where do we go with this? Because it's two sides who were struggling for, not necessarily for, because I think Rovers have obviously picked up, victories. I think Warrington have picked up the odd victories, not the odd victories, a few victories, whilst also suffering a few defeats. Probably forms similar to what Rovers are going through. Of course, we saw Wire get pumped really by Wigan's youngsters. There's no doubt whatsoever they're going through a little bit of a mini injury crisis. We'll talk about some of the players who may be returning to Robin's side on Saturday afternoon. But it's a big game, isn't it? Because when you look at the league table on the back of the defeat to Wakefield, you can't keep losing too many times to sides that are in them playoff positions.
No, and I think that's what Rovers are coming in for a bit of criticism of as of late is we're all right beating the teams outside the six, but we're really struggling against teams within the six. And this is where we're going to need a massive performance because, I'm under no illusions Warrington are going to be hurting from the pain we've given them over the last 2 or 3 years in some of the victories we've had over them. So with what happened with Warrington against Wigan's kids last week, they're going to be smarting over that. And I think they're going to be going for this game to put a few wrongs right. But equally, so we. And this is where we do need to really stand up and take the game by the scruff of the neck. It wasn't that long ago. If you remember rightly, we couldn't buy a win across in Lancashire. Then we went to Warrington on that was it a Friday night? And we put in one hell of a performance and absolutely battered them and proved all our doubters wrong. And I feel like we need to get back to that, putting doubters wrong. We can beat teams in the top six and we can put a decent performance in. And that for me is ultimately what is important, is putting a proper performance in and show that they care, because that's what we need right now. We need some passion and we need some controlled passion. Obviously, I'm going to back the boys to get the job done. It's not going to be easy. I think what happened last week with Warrington and OKR needs putting to bed. This week's a new week, and hopefully it'll be a really, really good game. And, we've got personnel coming back, which I'll let you go through. But ultimately, we need to get the job done, and we need to do it pretty well as well, in my honest opinion, because, we've got that dirty lot the week after. So it'll be a great way to go into that game, instead of back-to-back defeats. We've got a decent victory over Warrington going into another old derby. So it's massive, and I think it's bigger than what people think, because we've got the likes of Lee breathing down our neck in that six, and they're finding form. And St Helens, they're clunky as hell, with what happened to them over the weekend. So it's a crazy one, but I think, last 10 games, we really need to start building it. It starts at the AGA on Saturday.
Yeah, and there's no doubt when you look at the playoff positions, Bazza, a victory over Warrington propels us up to them playoffs slightly. A defeat, though, and a victory for Lee, for example, could potentially put us out of the playoffs. So, as daft as it sounds, I know it's still early, and there's still opportunity to make up points, but it's really hard to chase things down, isn't it? It's really hard to be the chaser. You want to be the one who's at the top of the pile. So, look, this game, I think it's a great opportunity. What's really interesting, Bazza, is we talk about some of the players who could come back, and as we record this, we obviously haven't had Woody Peters' pre-game press conference. To be fair, after and now reportedly on the back of Rovers losing to Wakefield, Willie Peters tore the players a new one. He was absolutely furious. Now, is he going to respond to that by actually making some big calls in the team selection? He's never done it before. He's always tore into the boys and then asked them to respond. And to be fair, they have. Is this the time where he actually goes away from that and he makes some big calls? Plus, also, we don't know really where Dean Hadley's at. Obviously, the two HIAs in a month. Tom Amon, we're expecting him to be back. We don't really know. Artem Org was named in the squad last week. He didn't feature. He's hopefully going to be featuring against Warrington. It didn't feature against Wakefield. But again, there's lots and lots of question marks over these players. And we've said it before, Willie Peters doesn't really talk about injuries, does he? He don't want to really talk so much about them. But I'm really struggling to see where this lineup may go on Saturday.
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think we need a little bit of a shake-up. I don't, whether that's Noble coming in for Budgie or someone like that. I don't know. It'd be amazing to see Tom Amon back in the side as well as Artemog. But if I'm not wrong, but because Dean Hadley got 2 HIAs within a month, I don't know if he's got to sit down for 6 weeks. Protocols, rugby league protocols, unless Rovers can appeal it, because it's a massive loss. Make no mistake about it. And if we can get Dino back sooner rather than later, that'd be huge for us. I don't think there might be a little bit of a shake-up. I think it's needed. I mean, there's been a lot of talk of players being tired. So for me, the best way to do it is mix it up a little bit. Maybe certain individuals have become a little bit too comfortable because they're part of Willie Peters' best 13. Well, if they carry on the way they won't be the best 13. And, maybe sit a player or 2 down this week just to make players uncomfortable at the club and make them fight for that jersey, make them earn that jersey. Whatever happens, I know Willie will make the right call. The only thing I'm cautious about right now, what I think's been a little bit weak, is our bench. So if Willie can get that right, I think we'll be all right against Warrington.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen that Ryan Hampshire filling at fullback over the last couple of weeks. Obviously, Jack Broadbent's played a lot of rugby. It looks like with Pet Hickey now being suspended for 1 game on the back of that game against Wakefield, you'd expect Broadbent to fill in there, wouldn't you? If Artemog's now fit, then you'd expect him to enter fullback. We talked about Burgess, not being at the races, maybe another week of training or put him in a better position. But let's be right. Willie Peters was furious after that Wakefield game. Sometimes, in my opinion, like you just alluded to there, Bazza, players who are not performing to the levels that are expected, as Willie Peters always backed him, like I said, he's always given him an opportunity. But if he does that and he drops players and he puts different players in who probably are part of that best 13, does then that go against what Willie Peters has always done, which then may put bigger question marks over why is he doing that when he's never done that before? I don't know. Do we stick to what we've always done, or is it time to change it? But then does that make us look desperate, or does it not matter? 2 points is all that matters. Getting the wins, what matters?
For me, it's 2 points that matters. That right now is more important than a player's ego, personally. Mm-hmm. And this isn't been an overnight thing, Johno. This has been around for a number of weeks, where I know we've picked up some wins, but we haven't looked great. We haven't looked great in attack. The players, for me, certain individuals have had a chance to put some wrongs right. Maybe a week off will do them the world of good to have a look at themselves and reflect on their own personal performances and check things up. I wouldn't have said it was a desperation thing. For me, I think it's more of a lesson to players becoming complacent in their position, mate. And there's always that next man up mentality. And if you're not up to it that week, you're getting dropped. And I think that's what's needed, because I think there's certain individuals who's become too comfortable. So if there was a change with certain individuals, what's not expected, I wouldn't be surprised. And for me, it goes back to you need to go away and work on yourself. And we saw it not long ago when Jai Whitbread, after the Wakefield game, got dropped into the reserves, and he was better for it. He come back, he worked on it, and he was better for it. So Willie isn't scared to do that. It's just how some of these egos respond to it. You know?
Yeah, I tell you what, there's loads of stuff we could talk about, but the questions in question time will bring out that discussion, Bazza. So let's go to. I tell you what, before question time, let's talk about the fact that Sausosu 1-year contract. We don't need to spend too long because we've talked it on previous Robin pods about how we probably expected it to happen. We've seen a bit of a mixed response, but I think that's more to do with just where we are in terms of the team performances. Because for me, on the Saturday, he was our best performing forward, and he still keeps turning up. And people questioning whether whether he should have one more year based on his age. Well, for me, at the moment, he's turning up and he's performing. I think people are looking at how can we refresh the squad and whether it should be Sue in one more year or whether we could bring somebody else in. But I still think there's a bit of value in him. I still think he's got a lot to contribute, and I still think he is contributing to a high level. So I saw it coming. I thought we'd be offering him a new deal. Thoughts, Bazza?
Well, the mixed responses tells you that the club's struggling right now, because if these negotiations was happening last year, 99% of them fans would be screaming for him to sign on for another year. I think it's just a position we're in right now, and it can be a little bit fickle at times. I think it's a smart move for the club because it does offer so much on and off the field, and it's something for Nathan Kalis to work around as well. Let's be honest, he's an old head at the club now. It'll be his 4th year. He's 35 next year. He offers a wealth of experience. He's got that winning mentality, and it's something for Nathan to work around the likes of him, Tom Mamone and Jai Whitbread. The one player I said I won't bag on anyone. I don't think Sam Luckley's looked right for the last couple of weeks. And I don't want to bag on Sam because he's a lovely fella. I just think it's a smart move by the club. I can't imagine he'll be playing massive minutes like he has been. And, I don't feel like we could do with recruiting another big body up front. But there's worse deals to be done. I'm comfortable with it because we've seen his progression over the last few years. He's an absolute machine now from when he first arrived at the club.
Right, Bazza, we've got question time, and there's some really interesting ones. Let's rewind back to Saturday because James Scrutiny says Saturday performance was awful. I don't think Wakefield played brilliantly. They didn't need to. What are your thoughts on Burgess? We spoke about that. I thought it looked weak and fragile. Plus, this might be controversial, but I think a player not making much impact at present, along with a few others, is James Batchelor. Seems to have no punch going forward. What do you guys think? Of course, Bazza is vice captain of the side, assistant captain, whatever it is. I mean, let's get it right. There's no question whatsoever. His defence, his work rating is absolutely phenomenal. I tell you what, take him out the side and Dean Adley, you'll soon know about it. I understand the meters made though, because I think he's 40 to 50 metres at best a game, but maybe he's there for a set role. But I understand why James would be questioning that in terms of impact, because sometimes on the eye, we look at things in terms of attack, don't we? Punching through defences, making meters, and sometimes the defensive work can go a bit amiss. And when you look at how many tackles have actually got through, you almost miss it during the game.
Yeah, you do, and he might only be making 50-odd metres, but I think what you've got to look at is our halfback partnership. If James isn't getting the service, how can he make any sort of metres? So I think it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think he's ultra reliable for us in defence, especially, over the years we've been so fragile on that right edge, and I feel like we've looked a lot better on our right edge, especially having Batch there. So I don't think Batch is the issue for me right now.
No, Keith Sykes, he says, strange not playing Jack at fullback when he's been a standout for most of the season. I do think Willie Peters said, didn't he? He almost put Hampshire in to give Broadbent a rest. I suppose what might have surprised people is then to see him on the bench. And you know, going back to what you just alluded to there, Bazza, about our go forward and our pack, having a utility player like that, there's not many teams who do it, is there, where they have a utility player in the backs on the bench. Albeit he did come on for 20 minutes against Wakefield. I mean, he made an error, but who didn't against Wakefield? But I couldn't get why he made the change. And to be fair, I think Hampshire's not done. He hasn't let anyone down in that role.
No, and Ryan offers that versatility. If one of our halfbacks goes down, it can slot in there, and it's seamless changing it, putting Jack up in at fullback. I don't know. Maybe Willie's just managing certain individuals' minutes, you know, because these boys have played a lot of rugby in the last 2 years.
Yeah, hell of a lot of rugby. Andy Smithy says, it's evident to me that there's not enough players in the starting 17 who want to give the extra 10% that's needed to win games. There are a number of players who are content with the achievements of last season. Would Mickey McAlorum and Jared Warrer-Hargreaves have let that happen? Have the coaching staff been slow, ignorant to address that? Do you know what? As much as we may be putting a negative slant on where the Robins are right now, or I don't think it's true to any lack of effort. I think the players are almost trying too hard. Now, there'll be some questions that will come on to around the fitness of the players and whether they've been flogged too hard. But that said, I think the effort's there. I think they're trying, but you can only try to the best of your ability. And sometimes if you're not as fit as the other guy, it's difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally can relate to that question. And, you know, maybe that's just how it looks on the eye. And, you know, at times I can see it, but with your counter reaction there, your counter comment there, I think you're very right. Maybe they are trying too hard. Maybe they are getting flogged and, you know, fatigued. And I think it's just these frustrations right now. And that's I think the players are feeling the pressure and the frustrations, and, you know, it's hampering them as well. Yeah.
And the only thing to pick up on the Mickey McAlorum and Jared Warrer-Hargreaves, and do you know what? We've had it throughout the Robin pod this season, haven't we, Bazza? Like, I don't want them to go in sort of mythology as to be like as good as there was for the Robins and what they did obviously behind the scenes. They weren't the only reason, like, that we won. And I dare say if them two were still in the Robin side now, would be better than what we may be right now. So, you know, and that sounds like disrespectful to them because they were brilliant for Robin. They did so much, and part of them coming in was to improve the leadership group at the club off the field. But on the field, they weren't necessarily the best all the time. You know, so I think there's a bit of mythology going around about having them two simply in the side has changed things right now.
Yeah, and I think it runs a little bit deeper than that when you lose arguably 4 of the biggest personalities the club's ever had, as in Jared, Mickey, Danny Ward and Sean Kenny Dowell. You know, that cohesion amongst them boys and the leadership amongst them men, along with Willie, I think when you dissect all that and you lose all them big characters, I think some of the players are just struggling with that leadership role and they're looking around for a little bit of guidance. And, you know, maybe it's not there right now with the likes of Ian Watson and co.
Yeah, Carol Moore, she says, how do you think discipline should be improved, as in how to improve it? And if we were to replace Elliot Minchella as captain, who would you go for?
That's a good call. That's a great
To be
question.
fair, I mean, why you think, I don't think he needs replacing as captain. I think he probably needs a break from the game. I think he needs a bit of a... If I looked at that side and went, who's the one player who probably could do with a couple of games off, I think it's Elliot Minchella. The reason I say that is I think there's no doubt whatsoever he's physically fit. But I do think being captain of the side, there's a mental fatigue that comes in. Do you know, like who's leading every event, who's at every occasion, who's leading the side off the field, let alone then having to, be the figurehead of the side. I think there's a toll being taken. Now, that's only my perception. But you look at some of the work he's getting through, Minchella, he's still getting through some decent numbers stats-wise, but he's not having the impact on the side that he had previously. And I wouldn't be mind in the best interest of Elliot Minchella and Hull Kingston Rovers, if he had just a couple of games out just to reset himself, because he's been going hard he's been trying to prove himself ever since he joined the Robins. He's got himself to a level where he's the captain of the side and he's led the side to, record achievements. So let's be honest, there is going to be a time when he flatlines a little bit. He can't keep going to the levels that we've been used to.
Yeah. I don't think I've got else to say on that, mate, because I think you've nailed it. But if I was to pick anybody to replace Minnie, I don't think there's any arguments for me. I think it should be Dino with his leaderships, because Dino leads by example. He leads with his actions, and he dragged our team forward when our backs against the wall at times. So if we did have to replace as Minnie as a captain, like Carol has asked, I think my first choice would be Dean Hadley. No questions.
Yeah. I don't think we're quite at the stage yet. And I appreciate the question, Carol, because do you know what? It brings up a debate and it brings up an opportunity for us to discuss things. I don't think we're at the stage certainly not about changing captains. Sean Michael says, I personally think we spent a little too much time focusing on success while not focusing on strengthening the squad for this season ahead. Is there any salary cap room for flexibility for a loan or swap deal to freshen things up? We've done it before, or is it simply time to trust some of the fringe players with a genuine opportunity? I said about maybe, is there going to be some big changes on Saturday against Warrington? Take out the fact say Artemol comes back. You've still got Ryan Hampshire, Jordan Desiree. I think he deserves to retain his players, but you've got Kobe Winehouse, Tom Whitehead, Noah Booth, Bill Leyland, Jack Charles, Declan Murphy, all waiting in the wings, all desperate for an opportunity. Is it time to start? And this is probably, and we'll come on to these. I think there's somebody else who asked that about. We never had to blood 3 or 4 at the same time, but we could have dropped 1 or 2 in, during the season just to give them an opportunity. Tom Whitehead started the season fantastically, didn't he? And then last we know he's been on loan at Doncaster.
Yeah, I don't think we need a shake up. Going back to the success, I don't think it's hard, because the boys say week in, week out, last year, we're going after it again. And you've just got to trust what they say there. As regards to the salary cap, I think we're maxed at it. I think we've got 2 or 3 quarter spots, but I think we're at cap, and I think there's a number of them young lads we can't play because it triggers the salary cap in Super League and it'll put us over. So I think for this season, I think some of them young lads may not get to feature. I don't know the ins and outs of it, but that's only from what I've heard. I could be wrong. I've been wrong on many, many occasions. But I don't feel like we do need to free up a little cap space in order to get some of these young lads on the field. I don't think bringing a lone player in at this stage of the year will do us any good. We needed it in 2023 because it was at the start of that transition, but I feel like we've come a long way since then. And I think we just need to trust what we've got now, and the lads who can play just need to be rotated a little better.
Yeah, you'd imagine Taro May's marquee money, and then you'd go the domestic players, Jez Litton, Mikey Lewis, Elliot Minchella, have then pushed us up. Their money's increased, so there's probably not a lot of space. It probably looks like we might have to move people on to bring them in. There's no doubt, like we said on previous Robin Pods, Nathan Calis will be expecting maybe a couple of players to come in. So I guess it's a watch this space on that one. Gary Lee, I note your point. I hope to get you on the Robin Pod very soon about what's good enough and what should we expect. Finish on this one. David Elston, he says, last two performances have been below the desired level. However, with a good run in and a return to form, I think we could challenge for top two. Everyone this season besides Leeds are not consistently performing. Do you think we can turn it round and finish behind Leeds?
Well, for me, it all depends how Wigan reacts. And I mean that in the fairest possible way, because everybody was expecting Warrington to thump Wigan's kids at the weekend. And, you know, them kids stood up and took the game to Warrington and did them. So for me, Wigan right now are ravaged by injuries, but their young lads seem to be getting the job done. So if Wigan keep turning over results, I don't see how we can crack into that top two right now, because we've still got to go to the Brick as well. And by the time we go there, I dare say they'll have a near full strength squad. I think we should be aiming for top four. I'm not saying top two's out of reach, but we do need to improve, and it starts on Saturday.
Yeah, and there's no doubt, Bazza, for me, if we are going to finish in top two spots, at some point we are going to have to win probably 5 games in a row.
Yeah.
And that puts us under a lot of pressure, doesn't it? Because we do need to put a run of form together. And when you look at who we're probably going to play to put 5 wins together, it means taking a Wigan scalp. But hey, there's no doubt whatsoever, I think this team is capable of doing it. I think they've got the opportunity to do it. I think they've certainly got the motivation to do it. And let's just keep believing. Let's keep believing. We hope to get started on Saturday against Wakefield in terms of putting these running results together. Look, we've got a great opportunity against Warrington on Saturday. The club have done a great offer for people, haven't they? £1 coach travel. So I'm sure the Robins will be backed in great numbers once again. Don't forget the Robin Pod is powered by Budget Ties Auto Centre, the only car specialist trusted by the players, club officials and supporters of the world famous Hull Kingston Rovers. Bazza, thanks for being on the Robin Pod once again. But for now, live, love, laugh and be happy.
This is the Robin Pod. Robin Pod. This is the Robin Pod. Throughout the years, whatever the game, the Red Army's passion is always the same. Decades pass, now we rise anew. Rovers fans, this pod is for you. We won the cup, we ruled the league. A grand final win made us all believe. The world took note with Brisbane's fall. The Robins superb, now we won it all. Red Army, let's hear you sing with all your might for your world champions in the red and white. We are okay, and we are the champions of the world.